Have you ever had a neighbor so entitled, so unbelievably shameless, that they treat your property like it belongs to them? Imagine leaving your house for work, and 5 minutes later, your neighbor casually walks into your backyard, grabs your gas can, siphons the fuel, and walks away like nothing happened. No permission, no shame, just pure arrogance. Well, my neighbor did exactly that. And after weeks of stealing from me, I decided to give him a special batch of fuel he would never forget. By the time I was done, his lawnmower was destroyed, his car broke down in the middle of the road, and the cherry on top, I ended up getting him arrested. If you've ever dealt with a terrible neighbor, you're going to love this story. So before we dive in, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and stick around. Because this revenge story only gets better the longer it goes. Trust me. By the end, you'll be smiling. This happened years ago. Back when security cameras weren't cheap and everyone didn't have one mounted on every corner of their house. At the time, I lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood. You know the type. Small houses, short fences, people mowing lawns on Saturday mornings, kids riding bikes down the street. The kind of place where you expect neighbors to respect each other. Unfortunately, not everyone felt that way, because the guy living next door to me was an absolute piece of work. Let's call him Rick. Rick was the kind of neighbor who always seemed to be lurking outside. If you stepped out to grab the mail, he was there. If you pulled into the driveway, he'd appear from nowhere. And he had this annoying habit of watching what everyone else was doing. Not in a friendly, neighborly way. More like a nosy, opportunistic kind of way. At first, I ignored it. Every neighborhood has that one guy. But then something strange started happening. I had a 5-gallon gas can I kept on my back patio. It was for my lawnmower. Pretty normal stuff. The mower itself only held about a quart of gas. So a full can should last a long time. But every time I went out to mow the lawn, the gas can was almost empty. At first, I assumed it was my fault. Maybe I was using more than I thought. Maybe I forgot filling the mower. Maybe the container had a slow leak. But after a couple weeks, something didn't add up. Because mathematically, it was impossible. A 5-gallon can shouldn't be empty after just a few mowing sessions. And yet, every time I picked it up, it felt suspiciously light. I remember standing there one afternoon, shaking the can slightly and listening to the weak slosh of liquid inside. My first thought was, there's no way I used that much. Then the second thought crept in, a thought that made my stomach tighten a little. Someone's taking it. But who? The backyard was fenced. No one should have had access. At least, that's what I thought. Until I started thinking about Rick. Rick had a lawnmower. Rick had a car. And Rick, coincidentally, never seemed to be buying gas. I also noticed something else. Whenever I left the house, Rick always seemed to suddenly appear outside, watching, observing, like he was waiting for something. At this point, my curiosity turned into determination. If someone was stealing from me, I was going to catch them. But remember, this was before cheap doorbell cameras, so I had to improvise. I grabbed my old laptop, set it near a window facing the backyard. Then I installed some motion detection software that used the laptop's webcam. It was a clunky setup, not perfect, but it worked. If someone entered the backyard, the camera would record. Then I waited. The next morning, I filled the gas can, set it back on the patio, and left the house like normal. But instead of going far, I drove around the block and waited. About 10 minutes later, I checked the footage, and there he was. Rick, clear as day, walking straight into my backyard. No hesitation, no sneaking around. He looked like someone walking into their own property. He grabbed my gas can, unscrewed the cap, then casually poured gas into another container he brought with him. After filling it, he returned the can, closed the lid, and walked back to his house like nothing happened. I sat there staring at the screen. Part of me was furious, but another part of me was just stunned, because the audacity was unbelievable. This guy wasn't just stealing. He was doing it openly, like he assumed I'd never notice, or worse, like he believed I was too stupid to figure it out. That's when something inside me snapped. I didn't want to confront him. That would just cause a pointless argument, and honestly, he didn't deserve the courtesy. Instead, I decided to teach him a lesson. Sometimes revenge doesn't come from anger. Sometimes it comes from inspiration. And oddly enough, my inspiration arrived while standing in the bathroom. Yes, you probably already see where this is going. Over the next week, every time I needed to take a leak, I went outside and peed into the gas can. Not all at once, just a little at a time, day after day, slowly filling it. The smell was unpleasant. But the genius part, gasoline has a strong odor, so mixed together. It still smelled enough like fuel to fool someone who wasn't paying attention. And Rick definitely wasn't paying attention. By the end of the week, that 5-gallon can was completely full. But not with gasoline. It was something much, much worse. Now all I needed was for Rick to take the bait. Timing was everything. If I wanted this to work, Rick had to believe he had plenty of time. So I staged a performance. One afternoon, I walked outside where he could clearly see me. I popped open the hood of my car, pretended to check the fluids, packed a couple bags, loaded them into the trunk. I made sure to act like someone getting ready for a long trip. Rick was outside, of course, watching, always watching. I even said loudly enough for him to hear, "All right, time to hit the road." Then I drove away, but I didn't actually go anywhere. Instead, I parked about a mile away and waited. The plan was simple: give him time to steal the gas, then come back unexpectedly. About an hour later, I drove back home, and what I saw was one of the most satisfying sights of my life. Rick was standing in his front yard, yanking the pull cord of his lawnmower like a man possessed, over and over and over again. His face was bright red, sweat pouring down his forehead. Every time he pulled the cord, the mower sputtered weakly, then died. Again, and again, and again. He started shouting, swearing, kicking the mower. At one point, he yanked the cord so hard I thought he might actually collapse. I sat in my car watching the whole thing, trying not to laugh, because I knew exactly what was happening. His mower was running on 5 gallons of piss. Eventually, he gave up, stormed into his house. Then a few minutes later, he came back out and got into his car. That's when things got even better. Rick started his car, pulled out of the driveway, and drove down the street. Everything seemed normal at first, but about 2 blocks away, the car suddenly slowed, then sputtered, then completely died, right there in the middle of the road. He tried restarting it, again and again. Nothing. Just the sad grinding sound of an engine refusing to cooperate. Cars started honking behind him, people yelling. Rick climbed out of the driver's seat looking furious, hands on his head, completely confused. And I knew exactly why. Because that gasoline he stole went straight into his tank. After Rick finally pushed his car to the side of the road, I walked back to my backyard and checked the gas can. Completely empty, every drop gone, which meant exactly what I hoped. He used all of it. I couldn't stop smiling, because karma had just delivered one of the most poetic paybacks imaginable. But believe it or not, the story doesn't end there. Because Rick was worse than just a gas thief. He was the kind of person who constantly caused problems for everyone around him. And eventually, I discovered something interesting. One day I overheard someone in the neighborhood talking about Rick. Apparently, he had active arrest warrants, multiple ones, and the police had been trying to locate him. That's when I had another idea. There was a local program where civilians could apply to ride along with sheriff deputies. Basically observe police work for a day. Applications required personal information, including a name and address. So, I filled out an application, but not with my information. I filled it out with Rex, his full name, his address, everything. Then I submitted it. A couple weeks later, a sheriff's deputy showed up at Rick's door to confirm the ride-along, and surprise, the moment they ran his name, the warrants popped up. Rick was arrested right there, handcuffed, loaded into a patrol car, and driven away. The neighborhood was peaceful after that. The man who stole gas from my backyard ended up destroying his lawnmower, breaking his own car, and getting himself arrested, all because he thought no one would notice his little theft. Sometimes revenge isn't about yelling or fighting. Sometimes it's about patience, creativity, and letting someone's own bad decisions come back to haunt them. Because people like Rick always believe they're smarter than everyone else, until the day they realize they aren't. If you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge story you've ever heard? And if you want more wild Reddit stories like this one, stick around, because the next one might be even crazier.